Welcome to Motorsport Coaching, the podcast for racers with racers. Miss Motivate can help get you to the next level. Every episode, she talks to the best racers of today and those that can get you there. She'll help you get better.
Racing news.
At fitness, nutrition, sports psychology, sponsorship, social media, public relations, and media training. Connect with Miss Motivate at motivatetraining.com.au. That's MOTIV, 8, training.com.au. And now, to help get you to the next level, Miss Motivate herself, Belinda Risley.
Hello, crew, and welcome to episode 142 of the Motorsport Coaching Podcast. I am your host, Belinda Risley, and today I'm joined by Jack Atley from Pit Lane Media. For the month of April, we're concentrating on social media, how to improve your engagement, how to look into those insights, and importantly, engage with sponsors as well. For those who don't know Jack, he's quite famous in the grid. Jack has competition race experience across multiple categories, including competing in the Bathurst 6 Hour, Australian Formula Fords, and the Australian Porsche 944 Championship. This is combined with an extensive and multi-award-winning international professional media career, which saw him work around the world and included working as a photographer on the Formula One circuit based from London. And we're going to touch base on that initially in this conversation today. He is an overall winner of the world's richest photographic award, the Moran Prize, and he won that from over 30,000 entries. He's also a formal overall winner of the Australian Press Photographer of the Year award, and that's the highest individual award possible for press photographers in Australia, and achieved whilst working on staff for Australia's most predominant daily newspapers, the Sydney Morning Herald, the Age, the Australian Daily Telegraph, and the Herald Sun. Jack spent many years on staff for the world's largest and most dominant daily global news agency, so Associated Press, Reuters, Getty's, Bloomberg's, and Angie French Press, before settling to live in his native Australia. So apart from working in Formula One, his personal media clients include the Australian Prime Minister's Office, the Sydney Opera House, Commonwealth Bank, Coca-Cola Amateur, the New York Times in New York, and the Sunday Times in London. Pit Lane Media combines this unique knowledge and skill set in order to form an important difference when it comes to understanding the needs of a race car driver and a race team. And it's the difference in a sport where winning and losing is measured in a tenth of a second. Jack also runs and manages Pit Lane Clothing. And this fashion brand sponsors young race car drivers and includes Jane Hansen, Michael Clementi, Zia Kuka, and 16-year-old female British race car Chloe Grant, who's just been selected in the FIA Girls on Track as a finalist to compete at Ferrari's home track of Maranello at the final in November. Jack's background inspires him to produce a fashion brand for anyone with a racer spirit, young or old, men or women, with all of our original designs, from t-shirts, watches, hoodies, leggings, shoes, pullovers, and so much more. Pit Lane Media is your one-stop shop when it comes to website, videography, photography. So please make sure you stay tuned for today's show and hear more about Jack's amazing story in Formula One and the services he can offer to help build your brand. Well, hello, Jack. Welcome to the Motorsport Coaching Podcast.
Hi, Belinda. Fantastic to be with you. Thanks very much for having me on.
Yes, I've been trying to get you on for, I feel like, a few years now. We've had COVID and we were racing, we weren't racing. But welcome to the show and tell us a little about who you are and how you got started in motorsports.
Yeah, it's great to catch up with you eventually. It's been a stilted last few years, but we're definitely right back into racing again, that's for sure. This year has been pretty crazy already. We're only in March, but, we've had events starting most weekends for the past month or so, and all around Australia as well. We had Formula Ford on over the weekend in Queensland, in fact, almost outback Australia. We had TCR in Tasmania. We had Sandown before that. So, yeah, it's been a busy couple of months, but it's fantastic to be back into racing. Personally, my story, I guess, is I started in media when I was 18 professionally. I have always had a mad love for motorsport, of course, like a lot of Aussie guys do, I guess, when you're growing up. But I probably didn't quite have the talent or the commitment or whatever just to to get myself to be a Formula One race car driver. So I actually got into media because I thought almost the next best way to get yourself onto a centre court at Wimbledon or to into the pits at Silverstone or wherever you might be, I looked on TV and said, well, all those media guys actually get in there. So it was a way to get me really close to sports action. I love sport. I love cricket and footy and all sorts of sport, as a lot of guys do. But that enabled me to get right into the nitty-gritty, if you like, of sports. So I started professionally at 18, started at the Sydney Morning Herald newspaper as a cadet photographer, and it was a tough breeding ground. But I had high expectations early. It's very, very similar analogy to motor racing, really. You've got to fight for your position. You've got to be very committed. You've got to give up weekends and nights and everything if you really want to succeed. And I had a big dream to succeed globally. And so I started at the Sydney Morning Herald and had a great training ground. I was surrounded by older guys. I was surrounded by tough, hard-nosed guys who didn't like mistakes, and they had high expectations, and it was tough. I gave up my family initially and moved to Sydney and didn't know a person in Sydney. So, but it was a dream of mine to move there, and it was all part of the commitment and all part of moving up the order, the pecking order, I guess, if you like. I was there for a number of years and managed to establish myself in Australia and worked at a very high level. But my dream was always to go over to Europe, very much like a lot of young race car drivers do. So, and my goal was to work in Formula One, which seemed like a bit of a dream when you start, but you can do it. You've just got to be very committed and you've got to stay the course. But, you hear all these stories all the time, oh, that's too hard, or, only 1 in 1,000 does it and all that sort of stuff. Fine, but make yourself 1 in 1,000 or really stick to your goals. And I was lucky and fortunate enough to eventually get there. I did shoot a number of Australian Formula One Grand Prix, got noticed by an English team, and in F1, in photography circles, this is going back mid-2000s, there's actually only 2 companies which ran the whole of the photography services for Formula One. They're both based in London or just out of London. And to be on that team as one of their photographers, they only have 5 guys in the world. So I was fortunate enough that when they came out to Australia, I went out for dinner one night with one of the bosses, fed him a few beers, and said, "Right, I'm your guy." So eventually, they gave me a break. They sent me to. Eventually, I went up to Sepang, did the first race up to Australia in the Sepang, and then from there I went to London and got offered a gig working in Formula One, and I did it at that level for about 3 years in Formula One. In the meantime, when you're not quite shooting F1, you're also shooting things like German touring cars or MotoGP. When you're based in London, you can be sent anywhere, really. You can be in Spain literally 1 week shooting a test for Benetton, and then a week later you're back in London at Silverstone, freezing cold in the snow, standing on a corner waiting for an F1 car. So it was a great experience, but it was very hard, very cutthroat. But I came back to Australia after a few years, and I found myself pretty hardened up, I would say. It's a really tough breeding ground. But I came back to Australia. Then I continued working in media and photography for a number of years. But my passion has always been racing, of course, as well. So I decided I want to get into racing. I'd worked in media for a long time, finally got a few dollars, got myself into racing, and started in Formula Ford, started racing in Formula Ford. And I knew I needed to raise some sponsorship dollars to compete in Formula Ford. And so I built myself a website. And I just built myself a website thinking, well, that's how you're meant to build a website. And I knew I needed to market myself because I wasn't Australian champion. I wasn't 5-time Australian go-karting champion or didn't come out of that system. So I had to come at it from a different angle. I knew I needed to sort out the business side of it and sort out the make myself, I guess, attractive to sponsors because I needed help to race. So I wanted to do proper marketing, build a proper website, and then approach sponsors from there, from that base, and was fortunate enough to get a number of sponsors. That got me racing. But then once I got into racing, I had a number of guys who were Australian champions were looking at me going, how did you get sponsorship? How did you, I mean, you've never done anything in racing. And I said, yeah, exactly, I haven't. I haven't got the technical skills of what you've got, but I guess I've got the marketing skills. And so they asked me to start building some websites for them, start working with them in sponsorship. And from there, Pit Lane Media and the company grew. And from there, we started that back in about 2014, 2015. And it's really grown massively since then. And I've been very fortunate enough to work with some great drivers, and especially the younger guys. I've had 6 years with Will Brown, who's now Erebus V8 Supercar superstar driver, and a lovely guy, and his family's lovely. And there's other great young kids, I guess you call them kids, but they're the young men coming through, and women as well. Jay Hansen and Bailey Sweeney, and so Michael Clemente is another one who's done really well, and in TCR. Xavier Kokai is another young guy in Formula Ford at the moment, and we're working globally. I work with a young girl called Chloe Grant, who's racing GB4 in the UK. She is definitely one to watch. She's a bit of a gun. She was at the Ferrari Driving Academy last year, so it's awesome to work with these young crew.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Jack. Well, kind of like an awesome story. Do you kind of like sit back and sometimes just pinch yourself and think, oh, wow, like I never dreamed it would be? Or is that,
it's funny. People say that. I've been very fortunate, without a doubt, but I think I've always looked at it in a way as work. It's a passion, without a doubt. And when you have any passions in life, you think about it when you're going to bed. And it's the first thing you think of when you wake up in the morning, and you just get very focused. I guess I was probably lucky, like many race car drivers, born with an ability to focus. And so when I focus on an aim, now that can be a good thing, could be a bad thing, because you can get sometimes narrow-minded, and you can lose friends and say, oh, I can't catch up this weekend or what. But if you really want to pick a goal, and a high goal, you really need to be dedicated and focused. And so the first few years were quite tough and quite draining, I would say, but you can get to a stage where, I don't know if it's enjoyable. I think you get comfortable with it, and you get confident with it, I think is another thing. And then you can start determining which way you want to go with it all. And you can go, right, I can go there. I know I can beat him today. And you get confident. And that's how sort of champions are built. Not that I'm saying I'm a champion, but I often study. I'm very big on studying people like Roger Federer or, Tiger Woods or Michael Schumacher, all these. There's a lot of people that do sport, but not everyone can be Michael Schumacher. Not everyone is a Michael Jordan of a basketball or whatever. I mean, it really interests me how those guys think, and I studied a lot of their behaviours and read a lot of books about them, and I really admire all those champions that keep going and keep winning in tight situations. And there's a difference between out and out champions and people who just give it a bit of a crack.
Yeah, they definitely do. They're all the goats of all their respected sports. So I love reading about their mindset as well. But I guess the big thing about all of those athletes that were mentioned is that they do have their individual brand, and a website can help you build that brand. And again, like I always promote to all of the athletes to have a website, especially when you're starting out, because we don't own our social media. So, Mark Zuckerberg owns Facebook and Instagram, and the other bloke owns Twitter, and at the end of the day, we don't own that intellectual property. So it's fantastic to have a website. Yes, they are costly, but it's something that we own, and like you benefit from, is that something that you can showcase your sponsor. So getting started with a website, what are some key elements? Why should
Absolutely. That is that's a very good point. There's a number of great points that you mentioned there, Belinda. But look, I mean, even if you look at major companies around the world these days, from Coca-Cola to McDonald's to any major company, they still have websites. When social media was invented in, I don't know, mid-2000s, sort of came on in 2005, 2010, people started saying, well, that's just going to replace websites. We'll just use social media. If you look, if you look around, people still have websites. Major companies still have websites. Everyone does. And in fact, if you don't have one, it doesn't look good, and that's the downside. So you really want to keep you definitely want to build a website, I would say straight away, because that is the face of your brand. And the face of your brand is very important, especially in racing. I've always looked at racing as a business. We're definitely passionate about racing. We love getting out there and we love doing the circles around the track. But to get out there, you need partners, and you need, it's not a cheap sport, without a doubt, to be pretty honest and blunt about it. It requires dollars. So you need to start working with proper partners. And as a partner, I always try to think from what does the partner need? Not what I need. I know what I need. I need dollars to go racing. I need dollars to go out and beat my opposition. But a partner needs to look at you as a driver or as a partner and say, right, we want to partner up with someone who's good for our brand as well. And if we can see that this girl or this guy is professional, that's when they will start getting interested in you and start going, okay, maybe we can back this guy. They will get a lot of requests all the time. Many major companies get requests all day, every day from people saying, can you throw some money at me because I want to go racing? Well, I get it myself. And you go, well, that's fine. Exactly. And that's fine. And partnerships and sponsorships, I would say, a good thing to remember is it is a great opportunity for a company as well. Many drivers and think, well, they won't ever sponsor me. Now, companies are looking to sponsor drivers, but I would say that they also want to sponsor and partner with someone who's serious and who's genuine and committed and passionate and is not a bit of a fly by night. If you can show them that you're serious and committed and passionate, you mightn't be Australian champion yet, but if you've got a good goal and you've got a good commitment, and you can say, right, here's my car, here's my team, but here's my website, and this is what I can show for you, and I can showcase your brand as well. Suddenly sponsors and partners start going, well, okay, hang on a sec. So this guy or this person is serious and they're professional and they look good. A website has a number of key advantages. It also showcases the partner brand. And if you can keep that in the back of your mind to say, well, it's not just all about me as a driver. This is me as a team. And with the team, I have these fantastic partners. Look at them all. They're all on my website. You can be linked to my website. The partner starts feeling involved and the partner starts feeling better about the situation. They get happier about it. They get more excited. So that's another key benefit. And I guess one of the biggest things that you said there is spot on the mark, that you own it. So you are in control of that situation. And it's also something that's solid, I would say, because with social media, TikTok and Instagram, a lot of it's pretty fleeting and instant these days, and that's fine. That's what a lot of people look at, and you get used to that, and you get to see a 5-second grab and go, okay, fine. Even Facebook, that can be gone in a day or two, but as a website, it's a solid base, and you can always call people and sponsors and partners and fans back to a website. You look at F1, Formula One has a website. V8 Supercars has a website. So it's a hub. It's a place where you can draw people in, draw fans, draw sponsors into an area that you are in control of.
Yes, because motorsport is a business. It's talking my language, Jack. Talking my language. Motorsport is a business. Fantastic.
It is.
So when somebody's starting off about developing a website, how do they know about choosing what platform even to host it on? Because there's like Wix, there's WordPress, Kajabi, there's lots of different kind of platforms.
Look, I'd say be a little bit careful. I think probably on that point, the next step from that point would be, if you are going to do a website, probably do it properly. I would say it's probably worse for your brand, worse as a driver, worse for sponsorship, if you haven't attempted a website and it looks very poor, or it's 3 years out of date. Or these days, people will look at something very quickly and say, well, that's 3 years out of date. I don't know. I might not stick around with that. But we're all the same. We all do it. So you've got to make sure that if you are going to do a website, make sure you're committed to doing it. You can do it yourself these days. Technology's got a lot better these days. I mean, you look at 10, 15 years ago, you needed to hire a $10,000 coding expert to write code and whatever. Now, websites and technology and video and social media and everything else has made it a lot more simpler. Cameras in general. I mean, are now made a lot more simpler, where even with iPhones and camera phones, we can take a photograph, hit a button, make it perfectly exposed, hit another button, send it to London, send it to New York in the next 5 minutes. So technology has made these things a lot better, but you've still got to have a direction, and you've still got to make sure that it is up to date and very professional. I would say your images is really another key point about it.
Yeah.
Many websites I've seen can have pretty poor images. You go to a track, and it's a funny, interesting point, Belinda, but people look at their own photographs, especially say of their kids, or they look at their friends or whatever, and they go, oh, that's a great photograph. It might be a great photograph to you, but it might not be a great photograph to a partner or to a branding sponsors. So you've got to make sure that the photos are done correctly. Try to, hire a professional photographer if you can. Say, I'm at the truck, I've got a test day. I love test days myself, because I love test days almost more than racing sometimes, because in a test day at Winton or a test day at Phillip Island, or you can do a whole year's worth of photographs in a controlled environment, and you can take your time. It's not as stressed as when you're at the racetrack on a race weekend. So you can really get your images sorted for the year. And we will do that with a lot of our drivers, absolutely. We'll go to the testing in January, February, March. You can even, it sounds funny, but you can get them looking sad, you can get them looking happy, you can do all that sort of stuff behind the scenes on a test day, and then come March or April or whenever, instantly you can update it with an image that tells the story. Yes. A website tells the story to people that don't know you or to partners what you are about. So that's another key aspect as well. So make sure your images are good. With particular brands of website templates, look, there's a number of ones out there. You can go for a one that's a cheap and easy option, but again, I'd be slightly careful of that. You don't have to go for high-end, top-of-the-range, multi-million-dollar systems either as well. You can get something that's you're comfortable with. If you want to do it yourself, but that can be time-consuming, and it's literally why a company like ours does. I'm not just here to sell my brand, but a lot of guys use us because come a race weekend, you want to concentrate on your driving, and that's right. What real, that's the key behind our company is we let you just race. That's the slogan of Pit Lane Media. We let you just race, because you don't want to have to be, and most guys, a lot of people do, race a car at 250 kilometres an hour with 20 other clowns all around you as I've done. And that's draining, and it's very hard work. So to then get back to the pits and have to do a social media post and say I had a bad race or a good race, and you might be in a bad mood, and you might say I lost the race. So you don't want to do a social media post. Well, people still want to hear about it. So that's where it's good to have a third party.
That's right. And I always drivers to have all this stuff kind of like exactly what you're saying, like pre-created prior to race weekend. So then when they are at the race weekend, they can just focus on racing. But just let the fans know, like, hey, guys, it's Friday. This is qualifying. This is what's happened. Yeah. I will check in Saturday night at 6 or Saturday night at 7 and not so much. But as long as the fans know when they're going to check back in and give them an update. And it also allows the athlete not to have to constantly be on their phone, as we said, because they should just be concentrating on their racing. And even if they go, hey, it's Friday, I'm going to just check back in on Monday at 2 o'clock, then that's okay, because it is about racing once they get there. So exactly.
And engaging with fans is a very, very great point that you said there too. You'd be surprised. A lot of drivers I speak to go, I don't know if I've got any fans or what. You'd be amazed. Like, people are interested in what you're doing if you're out there racing. So even family and friends, and that can build, and that's all about building your brand, and it's all about creating interest around what you're doing. And people these days almost demand, they want to see images of you there. They're so used to getting images and seeing it. It might only be a little snippet of each thing, but if you can just say, look, we did this, or we had a poor race today, or we had a fantastic race today, it just tells a story, it builds the story, builds interest in your brand. But you can definitely want to keep control of it all, and it engages the fans. So that's a key aspect. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what Pit Lane Media does. So what kind of services do you offer to the athletes? How do people get in contact with you? What does working with you look like? Jack?
We're Pit Lane Media. So we are pitlanemedia.com. That's the fastest, easiest, best way to get to us. That's our website. We cater for drivers, I would say, who are reasonably serious. So if someone's doing the odd lap on a weekend, you're probably not quite at that level, but we have a broad range of drivers and certainly a broad range of ages. You don't need to be just starting out. You don't need to be high-end V8 supercar driver, but we cater for them too, absolutely. We've got guys that really want to build their brand. We're a partner. Our slogan is we build drivers' brands. So we really want to work with the driver. We're not here just to tell you what to do either. We want to work with you, and you will say, look, I want to be here in 6 months. I want to be here in 12 months. I want to be here in 5 years. We'll set out a game plan. And we'll start off small and we'll build the website for you, but we work with you. We can also do merchandise as well now for drivers as well. So that's another key aspect, which can bring in extra dollars for drivers as well. It's another, not overlooked, but it's another arm of the business which we're now doing. We're linked up with a company called Pit Lane Clothing as well. So that links in well. So a lot of our drivers now have their own merchandise on their own websites. So now fans and anyone can look on their website. So it might be a Michael Clemente Motorsport website or a Jay Hansen Motorsport website or Bailey Sweeney website, and suddenly they can see that driver's range of merchandise as well. So we do all that for you as well. And we're there for every weekend. I mean, we're there for qualifying. Practice often is on Fridays. You might have 2 or 3 practice sessions on Friday, but we'll check in and just a quick phone call or a text to say, how'd you go? You'd be amazed. Everyone generally complains, saying, I need more turn in, I need more front end in the car, or I need to go faster. But that's okay. And you build it up over a weekend, and we'll cover a quick snippet about your qualifying off on that Saturday morning. You might have a race one Saturday afternoon. This is generally how sort of weekends go. And then Sunday morning and Sunday night, there's 2 races more. So we'll cover the aspect of those. We'll send that out to fans for you on your social media. We'll upload that onto your website and build the brand and stay in constant contact. So, yeah, pitlanemedia.com is our website, and we'd love to speak to you at any time.
And so, Jack, do you service Australia nationally, or are you just on the East Coast, or where are you located exactly?
We're absolutely nationally. In fact, we're global. So we have guys that are in America. We have guys in London. We've got Chloe Grant, who's actually from Scotland, but she's racing in the UK this year. And certainly our guys are in Australia, but the world is global. The world has opened up again. So often some of the guys that might start off in Australia, we had Scott Andrews, when we started working with Scotty Andrews about, early days, 2015-16. Now, within a couple of years, he was off to America to race, and we still can do his website, even though we're based in Melbourne, Australia, but the world's global, and it's nothing for us to be watching his race live in America and then watching a race in Tasmania an hour later without a shadow of a doubt. So we're definitely a global company. A lot of our drivers will go and compete overseas. If they're not competing full-time overseas, some of them might go do a few races, spare races, might go to Silverstone or Barcelona or wherever you might go. And we have to be with them the whole time. But you can do that from these days from anywhere, really. So, yeah, we cover things globally.
Fantastic. Now, Jack, you did mention that you are a sponsor as well, and because you like to give back to the sport that you love, obviously not making it exactly yourself, but obviously passionate about the sport and helping the grassroots competitors, as we mentioned. And you said you like to put yourself into in that hat. What kind of things do you look for in an athlete when people come to you for seeking sponsorship?
Wow, I love that question, I've got to say, Belinda. I absolutely love it because actually it's funny, since we've moved into a clothing brand which has the ability now to sponsor athletes and to work with athletes, it's funny. You first start off going, geez, I hope someone likes my brand. And then you start getting people coming at you going, can you sponsor me? And you start looking at people going, all right, maybe I would like to sponsor you. What are you doing? And you start dealing with athletes and you sort of cut them down a bit based on a few different aspects. And I would say, and I think passion is probably one of the biggest things. If someone is coming to you and saying, listen, I am really genuine and I'm serious about this, I want to move forward, that's the first thing I would look for. Because you can teach skills, but you can't teach passion. I don't think you can teach technicalities of sport. There's 3 points of every corner, as we know. We've got an entry and an apex and an exit in every corner, and you can teach the technical side. But if someone really wants to do something, that is an innate ability, and that's one of the first things. I think being professional is another thing that we would look at without a doubt. And when I say being professional, it's about caring about not only yourself and how you hold yourself and how you present yourself at the track, but off the track as well these days. These days, you can't tend to get away with a lot. I mean, if you get yourself in trouble, unfortunately, sometimes we do. These days, everyone's got a phone and so it's hard to, which is kind of a bit annoying because you've got to make sure you're always there. But if you can present yourself in the best possible light and best possible way, or try to as best you possibly can, that's another thing that we look at. And I think I think people who are probably appreciative of sponsors as well is another thing as well. A lot of people say, just give me this, give me this, give me this. That's fine. I mean, and a lot of companies are in the position to do that. But you can have a multi-million-dollar company, and I've certainly dealt with multi-million-dollar companies who say, I wouldn't bother sponsoring that person. And you could say, well, that's a bit strange. And they say, well, it doesn't align with our values. So I think you've got to look at your own company values and then see if that driver will align with your values. It shouldn't be just about giving clothing or giving money or giving away gifts to drivers. A driver should always think, what is in this for that company? How can I help that company as well as help themselves? Companies will help you. Companies want to sponsor you, without a doubt. But if you can say to them, listen, I really can give this for your brand, that's going to prick my ears up, and that's going to say, well, okay, this guy wants to work with me, or this girl wants to work with me, and so, let's form a partnership. Let's see where it all goes. So, passion and drive and commitment and professionalism all comes into it.
Yes, we just touched on some great points there around about social media again. Fortunately, probably for us, when we grew up, we didn't have social media, so we could probably get away with a lot more things. But the other great thing, or I guess a pro and con about having social media, is that when you are seeking sponsorship, that a sponsor will just go to Google and type in your name or your race team. And if you have had a big night out and squirt, and unfortunately your friends have posted your photo, or worst case, like you're vaping or something like that, it doesn't look good for your brand. Whereas if you've got a website, ideally, if you put in Belinda Risley, that first of all, your website should come up first. And so therefore a sponsor should go to that piece of content. No doubt they will still look into social media, but at least they're seeing that website first. So there's that point.
Spot on the mark.
Identifying values. Oh my God, when people comes to work with me, Jack, the first thing I say is like, we need to identify values. And they go, what? Why? And they think, oh my God, here we go. And it's such a head-banging exercise for myself as well, to try and educate athletes why it's important to establish values and to make sure it's aligned with a sponsor. Because again, the classic example I always use is that you don't want to be seeking sponsorship from a butcher if you're a vegan athlete. It just doesn't align.
Exactly.
But people don't understand how much or how important it is to make sure that your values actually align with the sponsor that you're seeking. So,
I was just going to say, adding to that point, I think as well, that the great thing about motorsport, I would say, and racing, is it's a clean sport. I love working with young drivers because it's a clean sport. They might be 15, 16, 17, but a lot of them look good, especially in karting. They come out of karting. I mean, I'm staggered half the time at how great karters look. They look magnificent, I've got to say. They've got the hottest helmet. They look fantastic. They look brilliant. So that is a marketer's dream. If you can present yourself well, I mean, motorsport has a fantastic image that it's clean. You've got to be fit to do it. You've for one thing. So a lot of them are good looking. They're fit. They're happy. They're out in the sunshine, and they're passionate and committed. And so they're not doing bad things. They're actually trying to achieve goals. So another thing you can bear in mind as a driver and as an athlete is that you do have positive aspects which you can give to a company. So if you can package that all up and, as you say, put it into a website and go, this is me and this is all the professional package, it looks really good. But your very good point that you mentioned as well is be careful, because a bad Facebook page or a bad Twitter page or a bad Instagram page looking like a bit of a clown off track or whatever, it might be fun to mates. But if you're talking about a business and you're talking about trying to work in partnerships with your racing, sponsors and partners and companies will not love that, I would say. They will definitely go through that without doubt. We absolutely go through Instagram and Facebook straight away and go, okay, yeah, doesn't look great, or actually that's impressive. You can use it either way. So
That's right.
you can really use it to your advantage, but yeah, be guarded a little bit, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I always recommend, like, have 2 Facebook pages or have 2 Instagrams, private and a public one. And you can throw on, like, what you do on a weekend behind the scenes as a private one, and then, you know, people can request to be a part of it. But if not, everything that's to do with your racing, it needs to be professional looking to come across, like you said, to have all those characteristics that a sponsor is looking for: professionalism, you know, confident. I'm just writing confident, and stuff like that.
There's a lot, but
there is a lot. And the other great point that you brought up is that basically that sponsorship isn't a donation. So that you're talking about people just seeking for merchandise or seeking for a website to be built, but yet there's got to be something in return for that. So I think another big mistake that a lot of the athletes/drivers make is that they think that sponsorship is a donation to their race, which isn't the case at all. So it's really important that when you are seeking sponsorship, just to make sure that it's mutually benefit for both parties.
Absolutely. That is such a very key point, Belinda. That's exactly right. When I started out myself, well, I'm guilty of it as well. I was approaching multi-million-dollar companies who you might say, look, I just need $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever it might be for a company. Now, these are multi-million-dollar companies, and they can look at me and go, well, not really. But I was taught, actually, and I learned pretty early that it's in many regards not about me, not when it's in regard to approaching sponsorship. It's about them. If you can go to a company and say, look, if you gave me some stuff, fantastic, but here's an option that I want to give to you. I actually want to build your brand. I want to tell all my friends and my family and everyone else about how good your brand is. Suddenly, a partner and a company is turning around going, wow, fantastic. Now we've got a great fit young athlete who's out there competing on a national stage, who's there to build our brand. Now that is a totally different ballgame to someone who comes in and says, can you give me $5,000? I mean, it's a totally different ballgame. So yeah, if you can look at it not just as a driver, and you might be Australian champion, and believe me, I've seen Australian champions, I've seen multiple champions who think it's all about them, and on the track it is fine, but off the track, if you can go to a company and a partner and say, I want to give you something, I want to build your brand, that's when they will start looking at you, and honestly, they will come to the party a lot of the times.
Yeah, and again, like we're educating the drivers around about list building as well, and so they can easily do that on the website. And so again, we don't own specifically our fans on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and Twitter. So although it's fantastic to build up our fans and our followers and our likes and that criteria and things, ideally we want to try and get them off to social media to our website and sign up to our newsletter. And I'm saying we can have all of the newsletters embedded in all of those social media accounts, but ideally we want them to come across to our website, because again, that's more of a statistic that a sponsor would like to know is how many people are on your email list. And if you turn around and go, what are you talking about? It's just those little things around about being professional. And if you say, look, I've got 200, well, they're probably going to be more excited about there's 200 engaged people as opposed to having 2,200 likes or followers. But yet you only get 20 likes on each post that you do. So a sponsor definitely looks at those kind of things very differently to what an athlete does or what they think is right or wrong right now. So that's another benefit of having that website. They can build that email list.
Without a doubt, absolutely. It's a database, absolutely. These are all little aspects which you can go to a partner or a sponsorship. You can walk into a boardroom and say, here is all this and here is all this. And they will, a lot of them I mean, it might sound a bit harsh, but a lot of them don't have a lot of time either. You've got to make an impression straight away. And I mean, that's another probably great aspect about a website is you can make an impression very quickly. You can make an impression in the first 5 seconds, first 10 seconds by saying, look, I know you're very busy, but go to my website as a starting point and as a base. And if the sponsor or the partners can flick onto your website straight away and go, right, okay, they will be able to tell straight away if you're serious or if you're a bit off the mark. So, yeah, that's another absolutely very key aspect of the website. Apart from the databases and getting their brand out there and everything, it becomes about them. At the end of the day, it's a real team partnership system, but the website is key, without a doubt. And having a good, professional, solid, up-to-date website is key to building great partnerships.
Yeah, and a lot of the young athletes don't feel comfortable saying their 30-second pitch when they're meeting people. So definitely having that website gives them that opportunity to say, oh, if you'd like to know more about me and my story, race over to motivatetraining.com.au or pitlanemedia.com, or giving them a business card or doing something unique to get that pitch in. But they don't actually have to sell their story then and there because they've already told you and you've already made that brand come to life by telling their story within the website. Exactly right.
And again, I'll get back to the point that even major companies still have websites. I mean, a McDonald's or a Coca-Cola or a General Motors or any Apple computers. I mean, they've all still got websites. It's not like they've said, oh, we don't need a website. They know that is the number. In fact, it's the number one thing that they have, without a doubt. And you get that looking good and that looking right, then you can expand from there. But, yeah, it's your home. It's your base. So you want to make sure that the website looks good.
Look, at the end of the day, like you just use those big brand international names. But if you want to know anything about Coca-Cola, that's where you're going to go. You're not going to purchase a can of Coke. You're not going to go to their social media. You're literally going to go directly to that website to learn more about it. When did it start? How did it start? Where do they manufacture the Coke? Where is it distributed? What kind of flavors do they have? Everything about that brand you want to know. It's going to be listed on that website.
Spot on the mark. That is so true. In fact, I think we could probably take that a step further. And what you've described there, Belinda, is you are telling a story as a brand. Now, that's what partners and companies look for when they want to partner up with you. They want to know, what is your story? Where have you come from? How long have you been doing this? Who are you? Who are we going to partner up with? And you need to tell them a story. And the website is where you can tell them your story.
Fantastic. And you're the man for the job, Jack.
Yeah, well, we try, but we try. We love it. We're passionate about it ourselves. I mean, I race myself. We're out there racing. We've been out there. I've been out there on track myself. I've sat on the grid at Bathurst and raced at Bathurst and raced at Phillip Island and raced all around, a lot of places around the world. So raced in Spain and raced in New Zealand. So to be able to sit on the grid and feel all the nerves and looking around going, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. I shouldn't even be here. I'm about to get done. But it's a real passion, and even off track, it's just as passionate as well because it's always flowing. It's always engaging. You never stop thinking about it, and we love it. And
that's what we're here to tell in the world. We love the world of motorsports, and that's why inspiring everyone that's passionate about it and doing what we do. Just doing what we love. Trying to help the young athletes of the world, basically, to stay in the sport. I mean, like my why is like I want to educate the young to stay in the sport, how to do the off-track development side of things so that they do get sponsors, so they do stay in the sport, so we do actually have a sport. Otherwise, because if they don't, we know it's expensive. We know they won't be there. And if we don't have a grid, then we don't have sport. So.
Exactly. It all flows. All goes together.
It all flows. Oh, well, thanks very much, Jack. I really love this conversation. Before we finish up today, is there anything else that you want to share with us? I mean, there's lots of greatness.
I've thrown a lot at you. Thanks very much, Belinda. I appreciate being on. I love what you do. I love Motivate. So thank you. It's a pleasure to be on here. And, if anyone needs any information, absolutely get in touch with us at pitlanemedia.com or pitlaneclothing.com is another avenue of ours. So, appreciate the time. And, good luck. We'll see you out there on track.
We will. And Jack, Jack's details will, of course, be in the show notes. So please make sure you race over and check out all the beautiful websites that he does do. And of course, I love them. They're very fast, they're edgy, obviously they're on brand. And as I said, you can work hand on hand with the team at PLM to get the website that's right for you. They start, like any website, kind of like in the mid-$1,000s to get started. But as you can hear, there's so many benefits to actually having your own website. And of course, it's the number one thing that I do promote is that you get our website up and running, first of all, if you're serious about progressing your motorsport career. So, Jack, thank you again for joining us. I love it. I'm so excited.
Thanks, Belinda.
I love talking to passionate motorsport enthusiasts that share that motorsport is a business and helping young athletes. So thank you again for your time. Thank you for everything that you're doing for the athletes. And I'll see you at the track.
Pleasure.
See ya.
Get ready for the race.
Do you feel one step closer to being the next superstar behind the wheel? MotivateTraining.com.au for more. MOTIV, 8, training.com.au.
The green flag.
Every episode gets you one step closer to the checkered flag. The Motorsport Coaching Podcast, getting you to the checkered flag faster.